It is week 9 in our year of stitches, and this week we are back to a simple stitch, and again we're going to next week take that simple stitch and show some variations on it. So this week's simple stitch is a stem stitch. Now what I'm going to do slightly differently for this one is stitch my stem stitch using 6 strands of thread. And the reason for that is I just like a really thick stem stitch. There's no reason to do more strands other than that. Now, when it comes to next week, you'll see that actually then sometimes there is a point to having a few more strands of thread. But let me just show you here with 6 strands. So I've got my 6 strands, I'm going to tie a knot. So what I am going to do here, because it's one of the places I particularly like using stem stitch, you can use stem stitch for a load of different filling, but I want to show you stem stitch used in a sort of leaf shape, because I do think that's one of the nicest ways it can be used. So I'm going to draw myself a sort of rough leaf and a varied leaf. This sort of, you know, a nice, gentle, sort of organic shape. I'm drawing that out. So bringing my needle up at the end. And again, I'm going to start you off just showing it in a simple way, and then I'll show you how to do it a bit quicker. So I bring my needle along, and a bit like when we were doing the basket stitch, how we didn't pull it completely taut, I'm doing the same with the stem stitch, where I'm going to stop halfway along and pick it up. So I go, bring my needle up halfway through and pick up my stem stitch. So now I'm going to jump forward the same distance that I did my first stitch. So it's effectively 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So you see here, you go forward and I go back here. And again, I'm going forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, working along the line. Just make sure you pull through all your threads as you go. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Now you can't really start to see the stem stitch in the first few bits, but as the line starts building, you start to see how you get this twisting effect. And part of that is why this comes from stem. It looks like a twisting stem altogether, a piece of rope almost. So, going 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Now, as you go along with stem stitch particularly, you'll find that your thread starts getting a bit of a tangle. So what you'll need to do as you go through is quite frequently smooth your thread. Now, the easiest way to do this, and I wouldn't tend to be working on a hoop stand anyway, is to let your thread hang. So every so often, you just let your thread hang down, and that just helps straighten it out because it untwists itself. So the key thing with stem stitch is, you'll see with my one, I'm always bringing my needle up on the top of the loop. So I've got my left hand at the bottom holding the thread down, and then my right hand is pulling the loop in, but it means that I'm always twisting in the same way. So my thread is always going from the top to the bottom. So you see I've got my loop on the bottom side and my needle comes up on the top. That is super important to stay consistent with, because that's what achieves the look of it twisting round. If you vary which side, if I started, say, doing my loop on that side and coming up in the middle, it would end up not looking at all like a stem stitch. It comes down, I get up through the middle. So that is a first line of stem stitch. Now, because I want to show you it for filling, you could easily use this for outlines. It's a really lovely stitch to be using for an outline. But I'm going to go take it back down and show you how nice it looks when it's used for filling. So here, I'm going to bring my needle up. And now, again, I have a choice here. I either go with my loop going on the top or my loop on the bottom. Again, it doesn't matter which you choose, but you just want to stay consistent. So for me, now, it's easier from when I'm going backwards to have my loop be on the top. So I'm going to go back, my loop is on the top. Now, as I get lower down, what I'm going to want to do is have all my different filling bits coming into the end. So I don't want this top one to become too dominant. So I'm actually going to stop this here, finish that, and then I'm going to go and carry on filling, because what my intention is to have the bottom half in a different colour. That's what I'm intending. So I'm back to working this way, because that's the way I find most comfortable here. And I'm going to start filling again, going back on myself, another line of stem stitch. And again, I want to be able to have space for a bottom row to come in here. So I'm just going to go up to here. And now I want to go, I'm going to go over to here to start the next line. So that's me coming across. And I'm going up. And to here, and I'm going to do one final row in this colour here. And then in. So now I've left myself a section at the bottom I want to do in a different colour. So I'm going to turn it over, see what it looks like on the back. I'm just going to seal off my thread in the way that I usually do. Now I'm going to grab another colour. I'm going in with a lime green here, just so you really see the difference. And again, I'm going to use 6 strands. So, like I said in the opening video, the very first one in our year of stitches, still split the strands even if you're working with 6. So, my needle is going to come up. I'm going to work exactly as I did before, but I think for me here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the line right along the middle first. So, I'm going to bring my needle up, and I'm working my stem stitch all the way along that line. I've got my long strand the whole way along here. Okay, and then I'm going to go back again. And now I'm going back up, and now I'm just trying to fill in the bits of the shape where I'm just slightly missing. And I think this is my last row. So back along the line here. And that is then your shape filled in with your stem stitch. And now what I want to do is just show you here, bring it up so you can see, if I take it to the side, why I think it's worth having 6 strands here. So you see how thick this feels. It sits really high on the fabric. It feels almost woven. And that's why for this type of stitching, I think it's really worth working with more strands. Now, much like our last episode, we are going to be having a variation on stem stitch next week, so I hope you paid attention to this one. I will see you next week.